Released in 2020, Come Playe was a supernatural horror film based on Jacob Chase's short story, Larry. Just like the title, the movie focused on the supernatural entity known as Larry, who often manifested itself through technology and haunted lonely kids who could be lured into making new friends. The movie starred Gillian Jacobs, John Gallagher Jr. and Ozzy Robertson in lead roles. And today we will especially explore how Larry managed to weasel its way into a family and wreak havoc into their lives. Now before we go into our video, we do have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you very much. Now let's begin. Larry's origins. A manifestation of loneliness. In his own words, Larry was essentially a manifestation of the loneliness in this world that was created out of the rise in technology. In a world where people would stare at screens more than each other, loneliness continues to grow and eventually led to Larry's creation. He came into the world being right next to ours, and he would connect with humanity through the screens that acted as windows to the alternate world. In his hometown, Larry found himself living in utter solitude, and he could only observe other people and interact with them through screens. In his search for connection, Larry came across Oliver, a non-verbal autistic child who struggled with communication with others. Oliver would rely on a smartphone to share his thoughts with others, and he was always surrounded by his mother, Sarah. While Oliver's father, Marty, was usually occupied with work, things got stressful at home to the point where Marty eventually moved out. All of these events further isolated Oliver from socializing, and Larry determined that he would be the perfect candidate for a friend. Powers and abilities. Manipulating screens to reach our world. Larry's key abilities involve manipulating screens to bridge the gap between worlds and travel across dimensions. He typically manipulates electronic screens to communicate with Oliver or other human beings, and he can also turn invisible to avoid detection. Larry is adept at interdimensional travel and observing people through screens, creating the monster we know. Connecting with Oliver, a desperate search for friendship. Returning to the story, Larry develops an obsession with Oliver and was determined to befriend him. He then created an app known as Misunderstood Monsters and portrayed himself as a lonely monster who just wanted a friend. However, the app did a lot more than just narrate a story, and reaching the end of the story would enable Larry to turn screens into doors and enter the real world. Larry hoped that he would be able to take Oliver back to his world through the app. Soon, Oliver stumbled upon the app on his smartphone and was immersed in Larry's story. This triggered a chain of strange events, beginning with flickering lights as Larry started communicating with him through electronics. Moreover, a second face emerged through Oliver's tablet while he was playing a photo game, but Oliver, however, didn't think much of it, as he was already distracted by his classmates' bullying at school. In fact, one of them even lured him into going into the school field and throwing his phone away, while Oliver's mother tried to find new ways to help his social life. She even organised a sleepover and ended up inviting the same kids who'd bullied him at school, while Oliver decided to hide his tablet to avoid any more strange occurrences. However, one of the boys found the tablet and stumbled upon Larry's story, which awakened the monster and prompted him to make his presence known. Larry turned off the electricity and made his appearance, but he could only be seen through the tablet's camera. The monster even attacked one of Oliver's bullies, Brian, hoping this would convince Oliver that Larry was a good friend. However, the bullies blamed Oliver for the incident, leaving the terrified child unable to explain what was happening. After the sleepover, Larry's interference in their lives became more prominent, and even Sarah started experiencing strange occurrences around the house. She confronted Larry through the tablet and finally discovered that the monster wanted to take Oliver back to his world. Meanwhile, Oliver's father, Marty, took him along to his night shift job at the parking lot where Larry began stalking them. The monster, now in the form of a skeletal creature, nearly snatched Oliver before Marty noticed him and realised his wife had been right the whole time. Marty immediately destroyed the tablet in the hope of banishing the monster. Around the same time, Brian confessed the truth about what had happened during the sleepover. The other kids no longer blamed Oliver for the incident, and Brian and Oliver rekindled their friendship. It was revealed that the two had been close before Oliver had accidentally hurt Brian, but they had reconciled and left the past behind. Larry's attempts to get close to Oliver seemed to have failed, but the monster wasn't done yet. It wasn't long before he made a comeback.
Fear.
The sacrifice. Sarah's final act to save Oliver. As the movie inches closer to its finale, Larry lashes out and attacks Marty during his late night shift, temporarily taking him out of the picture. While Marty is hospitalised, Larry seizes the opportunity to return to the house and attempt to befriend Oliver once again. However, Sarah intervenes and does everything in her power to keep the monster at bay, including destroying all the electronic devices in their house. Unfortunately, she fails to turn off the television, allowing the monster to play his story once again, giving him enough power to assume a physical form. He begins chasing them around the house, and Oliver realises they might stand a better chance if they run out to the woods, where Larry wouldn't have electricity to sustain himself. He and his mother rush outside, but Larry is one step ahead of them. He locates Oliver's lost phone and uses it to trap them. Larry convinces Oliver to take his hand and cross over to his world, but Sarah steps in, offering to go with him instead. She promises to become his friend if he spares her son's life, a selfless act of monumental courage that only a mother could display. In her final moments, Sarah looks at Oliver and finds him looking in her eyes, something she had long struggled to achieve ever since his autism diagnosis. The moment is fleeting as Oliver barely holds her gaze before Larry takes her life and vanishes. With his mother and Larry gone, Oliver begins living with his father, who makes a full recovery. Marty becomes more involved in Oliver's therapy and shows an active interest in his life. Things seem to return to normal until one night the lights mysteriously go out. Strange noises echo through the house, and Marty bravely checks his phone, only to see Oliver playing happily with Sarah. It seems the monster hadn't entirely disappeared, but Sarah did a wonderful job protecting Oliver and reassured him she would always keep him safe. As the movie winds up, it's suggested that Sarah somehow managed to defeat Larry even if the ultimate fate remains unknown. She is shown returning to this world to reunite with her sons, even if only as a ghost of her former self. Using tablets and other technology as a medium, she ensures she still plays a role in Oliver's life. The ending is bittersweet. Sarah fulfills her wish to establish good relations with Oliver, even if it costs her a place in the living world. Gillian Jacobs delivers an outstanding performance as Sarah, and the movie beautifully portrays the unbreakable bond between mother and son. Despite its technological horror premise, the film is a heartfelt exploration of a parent's love and sacrifice. Personality and motivations. The dark side of companionship. While Larry is depicted as a lonely creature who is willing to go to any lengths to avoid being alone, his behaviour highlights the dark side of companionship and the risks associated with befriending strangers. Larry does not think too much of the impact he has on those around him, and he even has no qualms about hurting others just as long as he can avoid being alone. He does seem to have a warm, empathetic side as he realises that Oliver is alone and isolated due to his inability to communicate with others, but he also doesn't take Oliver's feelings into consideration. Instead, he firmly believes that he must be friends with Oliver even if he has to force him, and he would turn to violence in order to make things happen. For instance, he tried to kill Marty and strangle Brian when he sensed that they would be threats to his friendship with Oliver. Marvellous verdict. And with that, we have explored Larry's behaviour and typical ways of operating and creeping up on lonely kids who would give him access to their lives. Come Playe puts forth a terrifying tale of the dangers of technology and how children might be susceptible to falling prey to it, and Larry seems like the perfect monster to weave this tale. We hope you've enjoyed exploring this horror movie with us, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.